We're going to evaluate each of the following. Cosine of 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 is in the third quadrant. So this is -1, negative root 3, and 2, because this is a pi over 6 reference angle. So if I'm doing this, I have cosine, which is x, so that's negative root 3, divided by the radius, which is 2. Cosecant of pi over 4 is in the first quadrant with itself as a reference angle. So 1 square root of 2. Cosecant is r over y, so that's root 2 over 1, which is root 2. Secant of negative pi, so we have a quadrantal angle, so this is going to be on the axis. So secant is r over x, and if I look at the radius, it's exactly the same length as x, except x we can treat as a negative, and the radius we never do. So that means that we have 1 divided by -1, which is -1. Tangent of 135 degrees, 135 degrees is a 45-degree reference angle, or pi over 4 reference angle, in the second quadrant. So I have 1, -1, and square root of 2. And if I'm looking at this, tangent is y over x. So I have y is 1, x is -1. 1 divided by -1 is -1. Cotangent of -4 pi over 3. If I'm looking at this, negatives go in this direction. So 4 pi over 3 is going to be slightly bigger than 1/2 a circle. So we're going to be in the second quadrant, and it's a pi over 3 reference angle. So a pi over 3 reference angle doesn't quite look like that. A pi over 3 reference angle looks a little bit more like a 60-degree reference angle, because that's what it is. So I have -1, square root of 3, and 2. And now if I'm looking at cotangent, cotangent is x over y. So x is -1, y is square root of 3. If I multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 3, I get negative root 3 over 3. And that should look like a negative, so you don't get confused. So negative root 3 over 3. Sine of 3 pi over 2. Once again, we have a quadrantal angle, so that's on the axis. Sine is y over r. Sine in this case is -1 over 1, which is -1. Last problem for review, basically, we're just kind of going over some bonus problems just to get some extra review here. Cotangent of b is -5 over 4. Remember, cotangent is x over y. And b is between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, so that puts it in the fourth quadrant. So I need my x to be a 5 length and my y to be a 4 length. Notice that the y is going to be negative because we're in the fourth quadrant. So that's where the negative comes from. We're putting it with the y. So I have x is 5 and y is 4. So I can do the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what r is here. So 5 squared is 25, 4 squared is 16. So r equals plus or minus the square root of 41. We always treat r like it's positive, so that's the square root of 41. So if I want sine, that's y over r. So that's -4 over root 41, which I can rationalize the denominator. So -4 root 41 over 41 is my final answer.